All right, now we begin our decimal review for our stupid test. First problem, I also attached this problem on the Edmodo. So are these this worksheet on the Edmodo. For those of you that were absent, please watch it. And pull up the worksheet so you can see it. This is our decimal one. First problem, we have a graph. You'll notice on your table. In 2010, the United States Mint released a newly designed Lincoln penny. A Lincoln penny has a mass of 2 5/10 grams. If there are 5 Lincoln pennies on a tray, what is the total mass of the pennies? Important information, 2 5/10 grams. And 5 pennies. We want the total mass. So how are we going to solve this? Anybody? Just say.
Multiply 2.5 times 5.
Good. Multiply 2 5/10 times 5. Or you could add 2 5/10 5 times. Either way, that's going to work. We don't need to line up decimal points. When you multiply with decimals, your steps that you took in the journal say, ignore the decimals and multiply like normal, and then count the number of digits behind the decimal point, total in your problem, and then that many need to be in your answer. So if we multiply 5 times 5, that equals what, class?
25.
Carry my 2. 5 times 2, class?
10.
Plus 2.
12.
How many numbers behind my decimal point? 1. So my answer is 12 5/10 grams. 12 5/10 grams. Again, the thing you have to remember that many of you forgot when we did a little bit of this last week, is you don't add magic zeros, you don't line up decimal points when you're multiplying with decimals. It's not necessary. You're making it more difficult than it needs to be. All right, the second problem says Sari has a bag of 6 $half. What is the mass of the $half in Sari's bag? Okay, so she has 6 $half. That's important. And you may, as you're going over word problems, you may want to identify the important parts of it. Make sure you're following along. If you don't have these done correctly, then fix them so that you know what you're doing wrong. So that when you have this to review, it's a piece of cake then. Now, Jenna, what's the mass of 1 $half?
The mass is 11.34.
Okay. So 1 has a mass of 11 3/4 grams. Is that correct? Okay, so what are we going to do to solve this, class?
Times 6.
Good. 11 3/4 multiplied by 6. Again, ignore the decimal point until after you multiply. 6 times 4 is what?
24.
6 times 3 is
18.
plus 2.
20.
6 times 1
6.
plus 2.
8.
6 times 1.
6.
How many numbers behind the decimal point in the problem?
2. Oh wait, I got it.
So you should have gotten 68 400 grams. 68.04, 68 400 grams. Now check me as I'm doing my math. I'm recovering from Ebola, so my mind could be a little not paying attention.
Let me guess it was contagious.
Please listen. Next problem. Felicia is running a game booth at a carnival. One of the games requires participants to guess the mass in grams of a bag of 9 dimes. What is the actual mass of the dimes in the bag? So the problem tells us we have 9 dimes. Markel, what is the mass of 1 dime?
2.27 grams.
Whoa.
2 and 2,700 grams. Are we all good with that?
Yes.
Okay, class, how do we solve this?
Times 9.
We ignore the decimal point and multiply like normal. 9 times 7 is 63. Carry my 6. 9 times 2 is plus 6, 24. Carry my 2. 9 times 2 is plus 2. How many numbers behind the decimal point in the problem? 2 in the answer. 20 and 4,300 grams. 20.43. Am I doing these correctly, Logan?
Yes.
Okay.
Which one's the young guys? Wait, what was the answer?
20.43. 20 and 4,300.
Number 3.
Okay,
Number 4.
gentlemen. A vine in Mr. Jackson's garden was 3 6/10 feet long. When is it measured again and is 2 1/10 times as long? How long is the vine? Okay, so at first, it's how long the first time?
3.
Okay, and the second time?
2.
Katie, what kind of problem is this? Multiplication. Again, when I multiply and there are decimals, ignore them until you get to your answer choice. Okay, just ignore them until you get to your answer choice. 1 times 6, 1 times 3, put my 0, 2 times 6, 2 times 3,
6.
plus 1,
7.
my addition. How many numbers behind the decimal point in the problem?
2.
2. 1, 2. Need to be 2 behind it in my answer. Okay, this is where it's going to cause errors for you, is you're going to want to think you move the decimal point straight down, and that's not accurate. Okay? That's not accurate. You put your decimal point, number of digits behind the decimal point in the problem, that's how many go behind it in the answer.
Just like addition and subtraction, that's the only operations we line up the place values.
Yes. And we're multiplying like normal and then putting the decimal point in the answer. We don't look at it in the problem at all. All right. Next we have 1 3/10 times 5 and 5400. I always like to write it like that first, so then I can come back later, and then I write it down ignoring the decimal point. I always put the one with the most digits on top, because it makes it easier for me. Now when I rewrite it, I just ignore. I don't even put it in here until I go for the answers. So if I do 3 times 4, I get
12.
3 times 5
15.
plus 1.
16.
3 times 5 plus 1.
16.
On my 0. 1 times 4.
4.
1 times 5. 1 times 5.
5.
I add 2, 10, carry my 1, 12, carry my 1, 7. 1, 2, 3 numbers behind the decimal point, my problem. 1, 2, 3 numbers behind my decimal point, my answer. So you should have gotten 7 and 202 thousandths. 7 and 202 thousandths. Questions? Piece of cake.
Piece of the cakes of the cakes in the cakes.
The next problem, yes ma'am. Okay, did I do my multiplication correctly? Okay, what did you get? Okay, well check your multiplication because that's As long as y'all are watching me, because I can make mistakes too. But as long as y'all are watching me, then check the math. I have 2 4/10 times 8 35/100. When I write it, I just write 835 times 24. Okay, 835 times 24. And the only multiplication you have to know this year is 3-digit by 2-digit. So you should be able to get 3-digit by 2-digit correct. Fairly easy unless we make some silly mistakes. Okay. So 4 times 5 is
20.
20, thank you. 4 times 3 plus 2, 14. 4 times 8
32.
plus 1.
33.
Okay, so that's what you should have gotten on your first line when we multiplied by the ones place. 2 times 5, 10. 0, carry my 1. 2 times 3 plus 1. 2 times 8, 16. Okay, then it's just simple addition. 0 plus 0, 4 plus 0, 7 plus 3, 6 plus 3 plus 1, 1 plus 1. So as long as I did my multiplication and my addition correct. How many numbers behind the decimal point in the problem?
3.
3. Need to be 3 in the answer. Okay, so you should have got 20 and 40 thousandths. Now, you'll probably see your answer without that 0. Because remember, a 0 at the very end behind the decimal point means nothing. It doesn't change the answer. Okay, it doesn't change the answer at all. Because this is like the 0, that's like your magic 0 at the end. Okay, it's just like your magic 0 at the end. And then we have 8 9/10 times 7 6/10. Okay, and I write it down. I just write it down 89 times 76. And again, if you were doing a test, maybe at the end of the month, before I started the test, what I would do while my mind is still fresh is I would write down some things. And one of the things I would write down is I would just find a blank piece of paper that's in the test booklet, and I would just draw a multiplication chart. Just because as the test goes on and you're working for 4 hours, your mind gets tired. So if you have that to refer back to, if you started your test by writing that down, you have that to refer back to. It's going to save some of your brain energy as you move on towards the end. Okay, so again, I write it down. Don't even pay attention to the decimal points until I get to the answer. 6 times 9. 54. And of course, as you were doing this review, you had access to it, a multiplication chart, so that shouldn't have been an issue either. 6 times 8 plus 5, 53. Put my 0 down here to hold my place value. Now I'm starting by multiplying by the tens place. That's why I put the 0 here, because I don't want to add anything more to the ones place. 7 times 9. 7 times 8. 56 plus 6.
62.
62. 4 plus 0. 3 plus 3.
6.
5 plus 2.
7.
6 plus nothing.
6.
How many numbers behind in my problem that's behind the decimal point? 2. 2 behind it in the answer. 2 behind it in the answer. As long as I did my math correctly, then we should be all right on that as well. Okay. We have 24 3/10 times 8/10. Again, this problem is just 24 3/10 times 8, or 243 times 8. That's all it is. 3 digit by 1 digit. You don't have to put that 0 in here, because all it's going to do is then add zeros to the bottom of it. It's not going to change anything. So 8 times 3, 24. 8 times 4, plus 2. 8 times 2, plus 3. How many numbers behind the decimal point of the problem? 2. 1 here, 1 here. 2 in the answer. How do you say this number, Gracie? 100. 19 and 44 hundredths. Another thing I might write down if I was taking a stupid test at the end of the month before I started, in addition to the multiplication chart, I might write down a place value chart. Probably, you don't have to go too far in front of it because you should know the places in front of it. But I would go make sure I labeled my tenths, my hundredths, my thousandths. That's going to make your life easier as your brain gets tired.
But then it's right there though.
But then it's going to be, I'm going to have to take everything off the wall
Oh.
or cover it up.
You have to cover everything up.
All right, let's look at the next one.
Even that?
Maria makes a quilt with a width of 2 7/10 meters. So the width is 2 7/10 meters. Oh, the length is 3 2/10 times the width. So the length equals the width times, what does it say? 3 2/10. The width times 3 2/10. We want to know the area of the rectangle is length times width. We want to find the area of Maria's quilt. And it says the area is length times width. Now, you're not expected to memorize area formulas. Those are in that stupid test. They're in the booklet on a formula chart. And what we found out this year is you guys are hard-headed and refuse to refer to the formula chart. Use it. It's another tool to save your brain from having to explode. Nobody wants an exploded brain. Nobody. Nobody wants an exploded brain.
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Last year I took the science
That's awesome. I don't know if there normally isn't for the 5th grade. I've not ever seen one.
Last year I made one for me.
So now, if we're finding area, I'm always going to, 1, write the formula, and 2, draw a picture. Label what I know. I know the width is 2 7/10 meters. Right now, I don't know the length, but I know how to find the length. The length is 2 7/10 meters times 3 2/10 meters. Or times 3 2/10. Sorry, not 3 2/10 meters. So 27 times 32. Okay, that's going to tell me the length. Whatever I get here when I multiply 27 times 32, that's going to be my length. Okay, so what's 7 times 2? 14. 2 times 2 plus 1. I put in my 0 here because now I'm multiplying in the tens place. 3 times 7, 21. 3 times 2 plus 2. 4, 6, 8. How many numbers behind the decimal point in the problem? 2. So 2 in the answer. Now I know my length is 8 64 hundredths. Now I can find the area. Okay, what you're going to do, I promise you, what you're going to try and do on a test is you were just going to say 8 6400ths was your area. Okay? Make sure you make a picture, you draw the formula, and you understand what the question is asking. Okay, so now I just have length times width. So I have 864 times 27. 7 times 4 is 28. 7 times 6 is 42 plus 2. 44. 7 times 8. 56 plus 4.
60.
Now I'm moving on to my tens place. That's why my 0 goes there. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 6 is 12. Carry my 1. 2 times 8 is 16 plus 1. 8, 12, 3, 13, 2. 1, 2, 3 numbers behind my decimal. So I should get 23 and 328 thousandths square meters. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't read the question carefully, and when I first looked at this, I used estimation. I said, well, my answer will probably be around 3 times 3.
You've got 9.
And I would have gotten one of the answers that was already listed, but I went back and read it again and realized that's not what they were looking for.
Yes.
So everyone makes mistakes,
Not, yeah.
and you need to be much more careful when you're
23 and 328 thousandths.
am I answering what they're asking?
Yes.
Because I would have gotten
And-
that one up, 'cause I rushed.
And look, okay, this is me doing this problem. And what we talked about a little bit on Friday is a lot of you wanting to just do it in your head without showing the work. But look at all the work I did. Now, if you have a stupid test at the end of the month, you have 4 hours to do it. There's not any reason why you should rush through and not show work. Okay, show the work. It's very easy. It makes an extreme amount of sense.
3 hours.
4 hours.
I thought it was 7 hours.
No.
No. What? That's the whole day.
Markel, I would not in any lifetime want to be locked in a room with you for 7 hours.
That's what you do. That's what it used to be. Word.
All right, now we're doing,
It used to be the whole day.
it used to be, but now they've moved it to 4 hours. Yes. Now we're down here and we're doing division. We have $7.71 divided by 3. When you're multiplying with decimals, or dividing, sorry, when you're dividing with decimals, just move it straight up. And then you're done. You don't move it down when you divide. I've seen too many of you trying to move it down as you go through. Don't move it down as you divide. You're done with that decimal point already. Now, does 3 go into 7? Yes or no? Yes. I'm going to have a number above this, the 7, above this 7, and above the 1. And if you think about it, you're dividing money by 3 people. Okay? Jenna goes to the movies. She buys popcorn for herself. She's not going to share it, but she makes her friends help pay for it. So she has $7.71. Divide that by 3. Okay? They don't get any, but she makes them share the price anyway because she's a bully. Okay. How many times does 3 go into 7? 2. 2 times 3 is 6. Subtract, I get 1. Bring down my next number. How many times does 3 go into 17? 5. 5 times 3 is 15. Subtract, I get 2. Bring down my 1. How many times does 3 go into 21? 7 times. Subtract, I get 0. Nothing to bring down. I don't have to add another 0 at the end. So my answer is $2.57. But to check it, I could multiply $2.57 times 3. Get 21, 2, 15, 16, 17, 6, 7. 2 numbers behind the decimal point, 2 numbers behind the decimal point, and it works.
I got it right.
My product was same as my dividend. Okay, my product was the same as my dividend. If somebody in your group's absent today, tell them to get on Edmodo. Because text them, call them.
I can FaceTime them right now.
Yeah, it's too
I can
late now.
tell Brock.
But just let them know to get on Edmodo because I put the test, I put this worksheet on Edmodo, and I'm going to put the review video on Edmodo as well. By the end of the day, we'll have reviewed all of the questions on here. We have 16 2/10 divided by 5. Again, my decimal point goes straight up. Does 5 go into 1? No, I'm not going to have a number above the 1. Does 5 go into 16?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, so I'm going to have a number above the 6. I'm going to have a number above the 2. Okay, how many times does 5 go into 16? 3 times. That's 15. I subtract. I get 12 when I bring down. Does 5 go into 12? Yes. How many times?
2.
2 times 5 is 10. Subtract 2. Uh-oh. I'm going to have a remainder. No, I'm not. I'm not going to have a remainder when I divide. Okay? I don't have a remainder, especially when I'm dividing by decimals. I'm going to add a magic 0 at the end, and then I can bring that down. Then I divide 5 into 20. Using my divisibility rules, I know 5 goes into 20 because it ends in a 0. So 5 goes into 20 how many times?
4.
So my answer is 3 24/100. I could check it, my divisor times my quotient, and I should get my dividend of 16 20/100. Because if you remember what we said earlier, that adding a 0 behind the decimal point at the back of a number doesn't change its value. I haven't changed its value. This would be like $16 and 2 dimes, because that's the 10th place. Well, 2 dimes equals 20 cents. Okay, that's why those are the same number. Because 2 dimes equals 20 cents. That 2 is in the 10th place. Oh, I'm going to skip down and do number 9, the multi-step problem.
Oh.
The standard width of 8 lanes in a swimming pool used for competition is 21 92/100 meters. We know we have 8 lanes. And the standard width is 21 9/10 meters. So 8 lanes, and that 8 lanes equals 21 92/100 meters. Yes, ma'am.
What happens if we haven't gotten this?
That's fine. Follow along and put your answer down.
What if we didn't get those 2?
Okay, you can do it. You can check them later. 21 96/100, right? No. The standard unit of 9 lanes is 21 96/100 meters. So 9 lanes is 21 96/100 meters. And let's see, how much wider is each lane when there are 8 lanes and when there are 9 lanes? So since it says multi-step on there, it gives us a clue what we're going to have to do. Now I would guess, and just knowing 5th graders like I know 5th graders, what some of you would want to do is just subtract and get 400ths, which is not going to work. This is saying right here, the whole swimming pool, the width of it is 21 92/100 meters, and they're putting it in 8 different rows, each row being the same width. Okay, and so we need to know what the width of each lane is for 8 lanes, and what the width of each lane is for 9 lanes. Gracie? Okay. So how would I find the width of each lane if there are 8 lanes and the total width of the pool is 21 and 92 hundredths meters? Reese. Divided by 8. So first I'm going to divide 21 and 92 hundredths meters by 8. Okay, does 8 go into 2? No. Decimal point, go straight up. Does 8 go into 21? Yes. Which means I'm going to have a number there, a number there, and a number there. Okay, so how many times does 8 go into 21? 2. 2 times 8 is 16. Subtract, I get 5. Bring down the 9. How many times does 8 go into 59? 7. 7 times 8 is 56. 59 minus 56? 3. Bring down the 2. 8 goes into 32 how many times? 4. So, if there are 8 lanes, the total pool's 21 and 92 hundredths meters. That means each lane is 2 and 74 hundredths meters. Okay, am I done? No. Now I need to find the width of each lane. If there are 9 lanes, and we're dividing 21 and 96 hundredths by 9. Okay, again, decimal point straight up. Does 9 go into 2? No. Does 9 go into 21?
Yes.
How many times? 2. Now I'm going to think, before I even really get going, is they're probably going to have to be somewhat close to each other, because I wouldn't think one would be huge and the other would be tiny. Okay, because I want it to be fair if one pool had that and another pool had this, because you couldn't set world records or you'd hit the lines between you and you'd drown, and nobody wants that.
So, Mr. Murdo, if your answer was like 8 meters across for the second one, there might be a problem.
Yeah, there would probably be something amiss in the neighborhood if you got an answer that wasn't anywhere close to this. Okay, so 9 times 2 is 18. 21 subtract 18. 3. Bring down the 9. 9 into 39. 4. 4 times 9 is 36. Subtract, I get 3. Bring down the 6. 9 goes into 36 4 times. So now this one, this is 8. So 9 is 2 and 44 hundredths meters. Now how do I find the difference? Subtract. Now that we're subtracting, we do line the decimal points up. Adding and subtracting, we line the decimal points up. Do I need to add any magic zeros? No, because they have the same number of places behind the decimal point. They both go out to the hundredths place. Subtract. So it's 30 hundredths of a meter's difference. No? Yes. 30 hundredths of a meter difference. Let me. Okay? Does that make sense? So we've reviewed already today multiplying decimals, dividing decimals, and now subtracting decimals. So there shouldn't be any problem with your knowledge of how to do this. Now, there may be an issue with you making silly multiplication or mathematical errors, but you know how to do this. And I know we had to remind ourselves last week when we were multiplying with decimals. But this means you should know how to do this stuff. It should not be an issue. Reese?
But isn't adding decimals like the same thing as subtracting decimals? Like
Yes. It's the exact same thing. You just, if you need to add magic zeros, you do. Then you move your decimal point straight down. Oh, let's look at, in 1849, a gold miner had 4 ounces of gold to sell. The store owner offered him $67.68 for the gold. How much will the store owner pay for each ounce of gold? So we have 4 ounces. He's paid $67.68 total. The problem asks us is how much per ounce. How much per ounce? Okay? So if I want to know how much per ounce, I'm going to do what? Divide it. So I'm going to divide 67 and 6800ths divided by 4. Again, dividing decimals. Markel, sit down. Decimal point comes straight up. Does 8 go into 6? I'm sorry, does 4 go into 6?
Yes.
Yes. I'm going to have a number above the 6, a number above the 7, a number above the 6, and a number above the 8. Which means my answer is each ounce of gold is going to be worth more than $10. Because I go all the way out to the tens place. And again, this is one of those that you should easily be able to check. This one, is this one multiple choice? Okay. Yes, it is. Say, I don't feel like dividing on this. Take each answer, multiply it times 4, and see which one gives you a product of $68 or $67.68. Easy way to do this if you don't want to do the division this time. Okay, does 4 go into 6?
Yes.
How many times? 1. 1 times 4 is 4. 6 minus 4 is
2.
Bring down to 7. Does 4 go into 27?
Yes.
How many times?
6.
6 times 4 is 27 minus 24 is
3.
bring down to 6. Does 4 go into 36? 9 times. 9 times 4 is 36. Subtract, I get 0. Bring down the 8. Does 4 go into 8? 2. And that's 8. Subtract, get 0. So my answer is $16 and 92 hundredths dollars. So $16.92. Just because I care and I want to get it right, because I don't want to go to summer school, I would check it. And if I multiplied my quotient, my divisor, I should get my dividend of $67.68. Questions? Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to stop here. Yes, ma'am.
There isn't an answer choice for that.
$16.92?
Never mind.
Okay. Markel, please sit down. Okay, we're going to stop right there. Now, you have this to take home today. In my later classes, I'll record going over the other problems. I'm going to put it on Edmodo. So work on this today. Go on Edmodo, pull up the link to my YouTube page, and check and see how you did on the other ones. Okay, there is not an excuse to not do well on adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, decimals. I think there are probably some rounding on here and some comparing on here as well. So anything that you have to do with decimals on that stupid test, you should be able to get right. And as I said, you're looking at only having to get about 60% correct. Somewhere between 55 and 60% correct. That should be easy for everyone. Easy for everyone. You have a great teacher, you're extremely smart, you're going to be well prepared if you want to be well prepared. Yes, ma'am.
Because it's first grade.
Yeah, I'm gonna give everybody 100 because y'all worked hard. So it's going in the grade book right now. With everybody 100 except for Brock and Maddie because they skipped school today.
Yeah. I got
They're probably staying at home watching Oprah or something crazy like that.
No, they're watching